Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Coaching Corner with me, Jamila, aka the IEP Coach. For those of you who are new, I am the IEP Coach. I'm the founder and CEO of the IEP Coach LLC. We are an education consulting company, and we specialize in providing professional development and coaching to special education teams, teachers, and paraprofessionals so that way they can thrive in their roles and not just survive. That's just a little bit about us at the IEP Coach. Welcome to the Coaching Corner, where we talk about all things special education, and we go live every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I want to say again, welcome to everybody that's tuning in. As you come in, please make sure you drop in the comments where you are tuning in from. Let me know where you're tuning in from. All right. Now, tonight's topic is IEPs Unlocked, how parents and teachers can advocate for students' success. So you want to make sure you share this live out with parents of students that have IEPs, teachers, administrators. You want to share this live out, okay? And as I'm telling you to share the live out, I'm sharing it out as well. And I hope everybody is having an amazing evening. I just got in from the gym quickly. Good thing I looked at the time because I almost stayed longer than what I should have, but I'm good. All right. So I hope everyone is having a great evening. I'm sharing out this live just like I'm telling you to share it out. All right. Let me go here. All right. And share out the live. Here we go. Tune in now. All right. Now, before we get started, I'm going to let you know that Speducators Rise, our group coaching program that is specifically designed for special education teachers. We still have spots. We still have a few spots open. And our new cohort is starting March the 6th on a Thursday. Okay. So you have a little bit more time to enroll. This group coaching program. If you are a special education teacher and you are dying for support and with your needs as a special education teacher, you're not just a teacher, you are a case manager as well. You may need support with case manager, you may need support with writing an IEP, or how do you amend an IEP, how do you run an IEP meeting, the SPED laws. This program, Speducators Rise, it is specifically designed for you. It is specifically designed for special education teachers. I'm a former special education teacher and a special education supervisor. And when I tell you that this program is everything that I wish I had when I was in a classroom, it is absolutely no lie. I wish I had a program like Speducators Rise. I would not have made the mistakes that I made early in my career, because those of you who are SPED teachers, you know it really isn't any training for a SPED teacher. Once you get your job as a teacher, it's like, here's your caseload, write those IEPs. And it's like, well, wait a second, how do I write an IEP? I didn't learn that in college. I don't know how to lead an IEP meeting. I don't know how to progress monitor. I don't know how to progress monitor behavior. What do you want me? But you want me to write these IEPs? So it's like having the coaching program, having direct access to me to support you and facilitate your training, you will see a tremendous impact on your practice as a SPED teacher. Okay, so I'm going to drop the link in the comments for Speducators Rise for you to go ahead and enroll. All right, and I'm dropping the link now in the comments. Pass it on to it. If you're not if you know a SPED teacher who is in need of this program, you definitely want to pass it on. Enroll in Speducators Rise. And if you are on Instagram, you can click the link in our bio and enroll there. Let me drop it. I'm dropping it in the comments now. Dropping it in the comments now. All right, I dropped it in the comments and I'm just checking on IG, make sure. Okay. All righty. So let's go ahead and get started. Alrighty, so hold on. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And after we go through tonight's content, we do have time for Q&A. So I know it takes time, especially on your phone, to type out your questions. You can go ahead and put your questions in the comments now. So that way someone from my team will bring it to my attention and I'll be able to see your questions and I'll be able to answer your questions, okay? All right, so tonight's topic is IEPs Unlocked, how parents and teachers can advocate for student success. All right. So first off, I just want to share why this topic is important because IEPs can be confusing, they can be overwhelming, and they are being impacted by the new changes that our president is making. Okay? So it is very important that we understand students' IEPs, that we understand that they are legal documents. No matter what happens in this country, those documents are legal documents and they are to be followed. And we have to make sure we follow them. We have to make sure that we uphold these students, our students' rights for a free, appropriate public education, and we uphold their civil rights. Okay? All right. Now, why is it important to understand IEPs more than before? Like, let's think about that for a second. Because before, you have people who, some people who's like, okay, I get an IEP. I understand. I kind of understand logistics. I understand, but they don't really understand it fully. Why do you think it's more important now than ever to really understand IEPs? Somebody tell me in the comments. And don't be shy. There are no right or wrong answers. Not going to bite you. Because again, I just want you to take into account the various changes that is happening in our country. With the attack on the Department of Education, and the attack on the Department of Education is an attack against public education. And when you attack public education, you are also attacking special education and all the programming and all the funding that supports special education, that supports Title I and everything that Title I supports. And you may not even realize that Title I funds is funding programs in your community, in your school, after school programs. They fund a lot of things for public education. So when there is an attack on the Department of Education, there is an attack on public education, which then trickles down to special education. Okay, so it is very important now than ever that we understand our students and our children's IEPs to make sure that, again, we're following these legal documents. With whatever happens in our government, these are legal documents. Okay, so let's start off with why we must understand the IEP process, and specifically parents and teachers. Because parents, these are your children. You are their first advocate. And as far as with teachers, these are your students, and you need to know how you are to support them and how the school is supposed to support them, how the team is supposed to support students. So IEPs directly impact the student's success. Okay, so when you have the written IEP, it's basically the education plan on how to instruct this student. So parents, it's very important that you understand your child's goals and those accommodations and modifications that are needed for your child to achieve those goals. So basically look at the accommodations and modifications are the things that your child needs in order to thrive in their education. And teachers look at it as, okay, it's not always something extra you have to do for this one student. It could be something that you utilize in your class. Now, depending on that kid's needs, some things may be complex where, hey, this one kid needs it, but there are other things in your instruction in your classroom that you could accommodate the whole class and use it for the whole class. Okay, so it's very important that we understand how the IEP directly impacts our student success, because it's the plan that tells that's it's the plan that's in place to help students thrive. Okay, now you have a lot of students IEPs who are not being fully implemented. Now that could be due to lack of resources, it could be due to lack of training, and it could be due to the different policies that are happening in our country. So it's very important, parents, that you are as active as you can be with following up with your school, making sure that your child's IEP is implemented. And on the teacher side, if you know, hey, this child is supposed to have speech, they haven't had speech, that you do your due diligence to make sure that you are inquiring regarding, hey, when is the speech starting? Hey, what's going to be the time frame for the speech, or what's going to be the time frame for this particular related service, that you do your due diligence as the teacher to make sure the student is getting what they supposed to have. Now, if parents and teachers don't fully understand the IEP, then that student is at risk of falling in the cracks and not performing as high as they could, or as high as they should. Because when parents and teachers understand the student's IEP, they can advocate for that student and ensure that the student is getting all of their accommodations and modifications, and supporting that student with getting their accommodations and modifications. However, advocacy has become more challenging now than before, because we have so many different changes that's occurring, like I said, with the attack on public education. So we have policies that are changing, which impacts special education and impacts IEPs. So, like I said in the beginning, when there is an attack on the Department of Education, there is an attack on public education. So when you have an attack on public education, you are so right now our president has an attack on the Department of Education, and the person he has in charge, the Secretary of Education, has no training, has no background, has no expertise in education at all. Miss McMahon, who is I don't know if she is the ex-wife of McMahon. I don't know if they're separated or if they have gotten a divorce, but she's like one of the founders of the WWE. How does that align with even, I don't even know how she was even considered. I mean, I know how. I know it's not about expertise, it's about money. But it's like, you only did 1 year on a school board. And for those of you who don't know, you don't have to have a background in education to be on a school board. You don't. But you're making decisions about what schools need. And you have absolutely no expertise. But that's who we have. And the attack that he's doing on public education, he wants to defund public education. So when you defund public education, you are draining all of the resources from it, all of the money from it, to the point where there aren't enough teachers, there aren't enough resources. Title I is being drained to the point there is no Title I. And Title I covers intervention programs and materials. Schools may use in Title I money to get more teachers, or to get more specialists, like a reading specialist, in the school. They do after school programs. They have Title I money covers a lot. And you have different types of title money to provide for the school what they need and what the students need. And then when you do that, it affects special education because special education relies on that funding. There's certain funding specifically for special education to pay for these related services, to pay for the different therapies that they require, the different programs that they require, the teachers that are needed to support these students. That's what we're dealing with now. So this current attack will underfund public education. And when you underfund public education, okay, teachers, providers will get laid off or, laid off. So therefore, your child's evaluation can be delayed. There could be a lack of support for your child at school, those who require perhaps one-to-ones or paraprofessionals. And then it's like, okay, well, how are we working as a team now to then support the student? There's not enough of us. And the student's IEP could say he's supposed to have a one-to-one, but there aren't any because there is no money for it to pay them. So that's what we're dealing with now. And then the impact on families, because families are going to have to advocate harder than they have before to ensure that their child gets the services that they need. And so when it comes to advocacy, this is staying informed, documenting everything, and pushing for accountability. And then I'm going to have to say it, you may have to sue. Hey, it's illegal. Your child's IEP is a legal document. It's not being followed. You're following up and you're trying to make sure they're implementing. They're still not doing it. You'll have to sue. Because the attack that we have on education now, it's where will where are the teachers going to come from? Where is that extra support going to come from if we are defunding public education? Our president is defunding public education. So given these challenges that could possibly happen, let's talk about how we can advocate for our students that have these IEPs that will be directly impacted by public education being underfunded. So first, we talked about the common challenges. We said that, okay, if public education is underfunded, IEPs, students with IEPs will be affected. There'll be a lack of follow through from schools and accommodations and services. There will be teachers struggling to implement IEPs. There may not be enough special education teachers to support the schools. So let's talk about, like, okay, what can we actually do? Okay, what can we actually do as parents and as teachers? Okay, so one, make sure you understand what your child is supposed to receive, what your students are supposed to receive. Okay, your child has speech. Okay, then you want to say, okay, you want to find out, well, what is the speech schedule? When is my child going to have speech? Okay, what goals does my child have? Okay, what are you doing to monitor my child's goals? Okay, my child has these accommodations and modifications. Okay, how are you doing that in your classes? Make sure you are super clear about your child's IEP and document everything. So if you have to take legal steps, you have documentation. And when I say documentation, I mean this. If you know that your child, is supposed to get one-to-one counseling at school, and you find out, like, oh, you asked your child, did you have counseling this week? No, I didn't. Get a notebook or do it on your phone in notes. Document the day, the date, and the date. my child did not have one-to-one counseling today. And then document how long they're supposed to have it. Okay. If you know your child's supposed to have speech 2 times a week and they only had it 1 time this week, document that my child only had it 1 time this week, because if they don't make up those sessions with your child, you are owed compensatory services. So make sure you document everything. Okay? As a teacher, make sure you understand your child's, make sure you understand your students' accommodations, modifications, and their goals. So make sure you understand that. And if you're not sure about anything, touch base with your case manager. Parents, if you're unsure about something regarding your child's IEP, touch base with their case manager. Okay. Now, teachers, make sure, and case managers, because you're progress monitoring the goals, make sure you progress monitor and you collect your data to track their goals. Make sure you are doing your due diligence to progress monitor the goals of your students. And if you know for a fact, like, hey, I know this student is supposed to get this service and we're not providing it, you document it for yourself. Hey, I went to administration on this day. I told my administration that this student needed boom, 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 boom. Document it. If you sent an email, document. That's your documentation too. But even in your notebook, write down when you sent an email and who you sent it to. And parents and teachers, email is perfect documentation because, one, it has the date and it has the time that you sent whatever information you sent or whatever you requested information. It's a timestamp for you. And sometimes they don't want you to put stuff in writing because it creates a paper trail. But for you, create that paper trail so that way you have proof and the necessary documentation. Because as a teacher, you have to cover yourself. Because if they say, well, how come you didn't make sure Jamila had her speech? You can pull out your documentation. Excuse me, I contacted my director and my principal on so-and-so date to inform them that this student did not receive so-and-so speech. Did you document it too? And this covers you as a teacher. So that way it doesn't look like you wasn't doing what you're supposed to do to support the student and give them what they need. Okay. Now, let's go into advocacy. Let's take a shift and go into advocacy. So, parents, you're going to have to fight harder than you have before, especially just with all the unknowns that is happening and all the changes that is happening. Fight for your child. Fight for your child. Fight for their education. Fight for them to have a fair education. So know your rights under IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Now, you know that thick document you get, the procedural safeguards, when your child has an annual IEP. You're supposed to get that every time your child has an IEP. It's this thick document. It's procedural safeguards. That basically tells you what your rights are as a parent and what you can do and what supports are in your county. So make sure you go through that because it tells you all your rights as a parent of a child with special needs. So you definitely want to pull that out, read a couple pages. And I'm not expecting you to sit and read that in one sitting, but go through that because it tells you what your rights are. Any meetings that you have, please don't be quiet. Please don't be quiet. Please voice your opinion. Please voice what your child needs, how they are being affected by not having a particular service or by things not being done correctly. Like be vocal with your needs for your child. Please do not be quiet when it comes to your child. Okay? I have been in too many meetings where the parent was quiet. They was just trusting the school to do what they needed to do. No. Voice. Don't let anyone silence you. Okay? Connect with other parents. Connect with advocacy groups. Definitely, there are so many online communities, online advocacy parent groups. You can definitely find them on Facebook. You can do a Google search and you can find them as well, because you are stronger when you are in community with other people who can also strengthen your voice and speak on your behalf as well, and also support you with what you're advocating for your child. And you could connect with someone who may have gone through what you're dealing with at the moment. Okay. Teachers, communicate with parents frequently. Stay in communication with them. Keep them updated. Let them know what is going on. So that way everybody's on the same page. If the child is progressing, regressing, if something is going on with the related services, keep the lines of communication open. And as the teacher, advocate within the school for better training and support for you and the student. Okay? Advocacy isn't just about fighting, it's about working together to ensure students get what they need and what they deserve. Okay? Because ultimately, the ultimate goal is for students to be supported how they should. All right? All right, we're going to take some questions now. Does anybody have any questions? Put them in the comment section now. Any questions? All right. Okay. I'm underscore around underscore selling underscore car said they hate when you're vocal to get an attitude like they wouldn't want the best for their child if it were them. Mashallah. I mean, that is true. They don't, and you know what? It's a shame, but some school, I'm gonna say some schools, they bank on you not asking questions. They're like, okay, she ain't gonna ask no questions. He or she's not gonna be paying attention to what we're doing. You know what I mean? Some it is sad, but some schools, they like that you're in the dark, because they're like, okay, we can move how we need to. He's not gonna say too much noise. He's not gonna make a big deal about it because he doesn't really know. They bank on that. So this is why I always push parents, don't be quiet about anything. And as a teacher, I learned to not take it personal, because I'm like, okay, if I have a child, I'm going to advocate the way I need to. But like, even my students, I advocate for my students too. So it's like, I had to learn to not take it personal. Like if a parent came at me a certain way, one, I'm like, okay, is she coming at me, or is she mad at me, or is she just mad at the system? And a lot of times it wasn't me, it was the system, how things are. But that is true. They bank on parents not, knowing their rights and knowing the laws and all that stuff. That is true. Some schools are like that, definitely. And also be careful when you do go to meetings, parents, where it could be just what is this? A MTS meeting where they're reviewing your child's information, and they may already have a permission to reevaluate already drafted. And they may say, oh, just sign this, is going to help them get more support. If you don't know what you're signing, don't sign. Ask all the questions that you need to ask. What am I signing? What is this for? What is this going to do? If they say, oh, this is to get extra help for your kid, extra help how? Because there are parents who signed a PTRE, a PTE, permission to evaluate, not knowing that was the beginning of giving their child an IEP. And there were parents just saying, oh, I thought I was just signing like something like tutoring, because that's how it was presented to them. So ask questions. If you're not sure about something, ask questions. I'm underscore around underscore selling underscore car say, I don't sign anything anymore. Ask questions before you sign anything. Excuse me, what is this? When I sign this, what does it mean? Ask questions. I have no problem asking a million questions. I ask questions when I go to the doctor. I ask questions in my professional work, because if I don't ask questions, like how will I, I need to know. I need to know what I'm doing. I need to be clear on what it is I'm doing. I need to be clear on who I'm supporting as well. So I will ask follow-up questions and clarifying questions. Don't be afraid to ask no questions. Okay? All right. Let me see if there are any other questions coming through. I don't think there are. I'm just going to drop our Speducators Rise link again, just so you know that that is coming up. And also, our IEP in a nutshell, that is one of our popular workshops, and we are now is going to be free on demand. So we will be dropping the link for our IEP in a nutshell on demand. So if you want to learn more about IEPs, we will be dropping that tomorrow. So you'll just it'll be like you register for it, but instead of like, you know how you register for something but is at a later date, it's like, oh no, you're gonna register and then boom, you can go right into the workshop and view the workshop. Okay, so it's because it's one of our most popular ones, we just want to always have that on rotation for you guys. Anytime you need to learn about the IP, is boom, is right there. You don't have to wait for us to do you won't have to wait for us to have our workshop because we normally would do it at the end of the month. You won't have to wait anymore. Once you register, you can immediately start viewing the workshop. Okay, so we will drop that tomorrow. I wanted to have it ready tonight, but I want to make sure all the logistics and everything is straight with it. Okay, so that will be dropped tomorrow, and I'm dropping the Speducators Rise link again. Let me see any questions. And those of you on Instagram, once it drops tomorrow, it will be in our you'll just click the link in our bio and then you'll see it. It'll be at the top. So I'll make sure it's at the very top. IEP in a nutshell. So again, it's going to be on demand. You won't have to wait to the end of the month to come to our live workshop anymore. It's going to be on demand. All right, so I don't see any questions. So I just want you guys to remember to please don't be quiet. If you have questions, ask questions. Take the time to read the procedural safeguards. Continue to advocate for your students, advocate for your children, and no matter what happens, understand that you are doing the right thing by your child by making sure they're getting what they deserve education-wise. Everybody deserves a free, appropriate public education. That is the law. That IEP is a legal document. If it's not being enforced, don't be afraid to follow up, and don't be afraid to seek legal counsel if you need to, because if this was another situation, you would have no problem seeking legal counsel for something. Okay, so don't be afraid. Advocate for your child and go from there. Okay. Any questions that you guys have, feel free to DM us. We are at the IEP Coach LLC on all platforms, and we are very responsive. And make sure you tune in next week, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We go live at 6:30 p.m. And please remember to be kind to yourself. Know your capacity. You're only one person. Please remember your capacity. Give yourselves grace and be safe. And we will see you all next week. Peace.